Sometimes they come as gentle whispers, other times they hit us like a storm. But every experience leaves a mark, shaping who we are and how we see the world. Today, I want to share a story, not just mine, but one that reflects the fears, strength, and resilience of many young women who step out every day to chase their dreams. A year ago, a brutal incident shook not just a city, but an entire country. A young woman, full of dreams, aspirations, and life, was taken away from us in the most horrific way. In the days that followed, anger erupted like wildfire, people marched, voices rose for justice. But amid the collective outcry, something shifted within me, a quiet, persistent fear. I remember receiving a call from my family. They asked if I was safe, if I was okay living so far away from home. And I told them, "Don't worry, I'm fine." The incident happened in another city. But after I hung up, I realized I wasn't fine. That night, I packed my handbag, a knife, pepper spray, chili powder, my phone with emergency SOS enabled. I wrapped myself in layers of clothing, a mask, a scarf, anything that made me feel less exposed. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every sound made me turn around. And yet, I kept walking. Because that's what we do, right? We keep moving forward, even when fear grips our hearts. But fear doesn't just disappear. It stays, it lingers. And sometimes, it catches you off guard, like it did to me one night. I was coming back from work alone. The street was empty, and the silence was deafening. As I walked, I felt it, the unmistakable feeling of being followed. My palms were sweaty, my heart raced, and I couldn't breathe. I texted my roommate over and over, begging her to come get me. And just when I thought I would collapse right there on the road, she arrived. That night, I realized something. Fear doesn't just stem from what happened to someone else. It stems from the thought, what if it happens to me? And that thought can consume you if you let it. Later that night, as we sat in silence, my roommate finally spoke. "You know," she said softly, "I was scared too when I saw your messages. I didn't know what I'd find when I reached you. But seeing you there, shaking, trying to hold yourself together, it hit me hard. We shouldn't have to live like this." I looked at her and replied, "But we do. Every day feels like a battlefield. And the worst part? It's not even our fault." She nodded, her eyes glistening. I think that's what hurts the most. We prepare ourselves with sprays, alarms, and emergency numbers, but deep down, we know it shouldn't have to be this way. I just wish things were different. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The weight of those words settled between us. And in that silence, I realized we weren't just scared, we were tired. Tired of carrying this fear, tired of having to explain why we felt unsafe, tired of living in a world that still debates our right to safety. But my roommate said something that stuck with me. She said, "We can't control the world. We can't predict what might happen, but we can prepare ourselves. We can be our own security." And she's right. Safety isn't just about pepper sprays and emergency buttons. It's about confidence, awareness, and bravery. It's about trusting your instincts, speaking up when something feels wrong, and never underestimating your own strength. But here's the truth, no one should have to feel this way. No one should have to carry weapons in their bag just to walk home. Safety isn't a privilege, it's a right. And yet, here we are. A year later, and justice still feels like a distant dream. The noise has faded, the marches have stopped, and life has moved on for everyone except those who carry the weight of that loss. So what can we do? We might not be able to change the system overnight, but we can change how we navigate this world. We can educate ourselves and others, hold conversations that matter, and refuse to stay silent when we see injustice. Most importantly, we can remind ourselves every day that our lives are valuable. Our voices matter. And our fear will not define us. To every young woman watching this, I want to say, you are stronger than you think. Carry your pepper spray, keep your emergency contacts ready, but also carry your confidence and courage. Because in a world that sometimes feels unsafe, you are your first line of defense. And to everyone else, let's stop turning our backs when these stories fade from the headlines. Change begins with awareness, and awareness begins with us. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay brave, and never stop fighting for a world where no one has to walk in fear again. If this story resonated with you, share it. Start a conversation. Because sometimes, change begins with just one voice.